Attention, please. Thank you all for your attention. I'm going to read a brief statement. Again, good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight to hear a little bit more about this project. The council actually has been working hard to try to fill the void at Rock 10 for some time, working with several different opportunities. This is just one that's been presented to us. So again, I want to thank you for taking your time out to share your concerns and opinions concerning the city of Norcross and its efforts. I also appreciate your feedback on from the Alliance Residential Company's initial proposal for redevelopment for the WestRock property. And Norcross has a really rich history of community involvement and civic participation, as you can see tonight. And we're pleased that many stakeholders across this community are actively offering input on this project. And we've received several comments, pro and con, and continue to solicit your thoughts on this and other ways to make Norcross a great place. Now, everyone's input will be carefully considered, as well as we all collectively assist the property owner and the prospective buyers seek to find the best value, best use, and best fit for the property that enhances economic development and quality of life here in Norcross. It's really important. Now, on April the 4th, Alliance requested that their original proposal be deferred from consideration from the planning and zoning meeting, as they want to further refine their proposal based on feedback from our citizens. Now, their original plan was tabled in April, and a revised plan is slated or is going to be presented tonight for consideration, and it will be presented also at the May Planning and Zoning meeting. From there, the proposal will be reviewed by the Downtown Development Authority, then to the Council's policy meeting. Then there will be a review by the Architectural Review Board. And after all of those reviews and recommendations are complete, the Mayor and Council will give the proposal final consideration. Now, here are the dates if you want to write those down. Planning and zoning is 5/2. The DDA will meet on 5/3. Mayor and Council policy is 5/21. The ARD meeting is scheduled 5/22. Then the Mayor and Council legislative meeting is scheduled for 6/4. Okay, you got all those down. If you didn't see me, and I'll make sure that you do have those dates. So as you can see, there's a great deal of due diligence and careful consideration given to this and all such proposals presented to the Mayor and Council for final consideration. Request for zoning, along with rezoning, requires legal, procedural due process. That's very important. And this is based on fundamentals of fairness, which legal procedures are required to be followed in the state and municipal procedures. The response from our board members, along with Mayor and Council, concerning this and other zoning applications must be deliberate and fair. Our opinions for or against are reserved to allow due process. So again, we thank you for your engagement in this process, and as we all work together to discern what is best for the future of Norcross and to continue to make Norcross a place to imagine. So thank you for being here. At this point, we'll turn the balance over to Corbin, and you want to give us a little rundown of what we're going to do tonight? There you go.
As the Mayor just mentioned, my name is Corbin Armstrong. Can everyone hear me? Good. I'll be facilitating this evening. Tonight's meeting will take two parts. We'll start with a presentation from the development team, Alliance Realty, and then we'll have a question and answer time. I'll be coming around with microphones. Once you ask one question, we will go around and make sure everyone else gets chance to ask their questions before coming back to you. It's not because we're ignoring them, it's because we'd like to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. Yeah, does anyone have any concerns or questions at this point? Okay, I'll turn it over to Jessica Hill with Morris Manning.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jessica Hill, and I am the zoning counsel for Alliance Residential. And thank you all for being here again. I think there are some folks who were here last time and some that were not. Just to give you a quick agenda of what the presentation will look like for tonight, we'll give a quick update and overview of where we are now from where we were last. Talk about the current zoning, talk about traffic, talk about the revisions that have been made to the site plan, and I think that might be of most interest to everybody in this room, and talk about the benefits of the project and the next steps. With respect to the update and overview, so we met about a month ago and had a community meeting. And since that time, Alliance has been meeting with individual stakeholders about their concerns about the project. And we have been revising the site plan accordingly to reflect those, to the extent we can, to reflect those issues. We have also updated the traffic study. We will be submitting that to the city this week, so it will be publicly available. There were some concerns about certain data that was in the traffic study or maybe not in the traffic study, so we have updated that and we'll make it available. We have also revised the site plan, notably to decrease the residential density by 28 units and to decrease the height from 68 feet to 45 feet, which is a significant change from the previously presented plan. All right, let's go into zoning. Before I get too far ahead of myself, just a reminder, this is the WestRock Rock 10 property. It's about 10.5 acres. It is currently zoned M1. M1 is a light industrial zoning district. You can see the property is here. Actually, I've got a little pointer on here, I think. There we go. It's right here with a star on it. The M1 zoning district allows a lot of uses as of right. It does not allow residential use, so we'll start there. It allows office use, and then it also allows several things like auto service, baking plants, cold storage plants, farm equipment, truck terminals, soft drink bottling and distribution plants, mini warehousing, telemarketing centers, flea markets, bus terminals, recreational facilities. And here, just for emphasis, here are some examples of some of those uses that are in the Norcross area currently that could be located on this property under the current zoning. What we are proposing to do is to rezone to the DCD, which is a Design Concept Development District. What that means is we have to present a set of development standards, we have to present a site plan, and that will all be part of the zoning conditions. So the benefit of this zoning district is that it gives an opportunity to create a site plan specific, project specific zoning, so you know what you will be getting. It's not an open-ended M1 like it is currently where you can have any number of uses. It will be a project specific zoning. And that is part of the application that we have to submit development standards, the site plan. Moving on to traffic. So there were several concerns that were raised about the traffic study that was presented. The revisions that have been made are, number one, we have added known development projects. There were concerns that the traffic study did not capture some of the undeveloped density in 7, on Hunter Street, and also in the Kelly development. And we have obtained that information from the city staff and incorporated that into the traffic projections, so that density is included. We have also revised it to reflect the updated density based on the new site plan. So, as I mentioned, we reduced the number of units, so the updated site plan reflects that. We have also included WestRock's, Rock 10's, actual operation. So, before WestRock vacated the premises, they had an office use that was there. Now, at the time the traffic study was done, they were not occupying the premises. There's a skeletal staff that is occupying the premises at the time the traffic study was performed. So what the initial traffic study did was just take the general office use, project the traffic that would be generated from that, and put that in the traffic study. Well, that's not really what WestRock's operation generated from a traffic perspective. WestRock had 630 employees on their site, and their general office hours were between 8 and 6. And so they actually generated a higher traffic demand than you would find in a typical office development because of the number of people on the property. So what we did is update the study so that we could provide those numbers as well to give you some sense of if, 2 years ago, if you knew what the traffic was like with WestRock, what it would be like compared to that. Just to give you a quick preview of what that looks like, the traffic study, the table on the top is the table that we included in the initial traffic study. It showed that during the peak periods, which is in the peak period in the morning and the peak period in the evening, there was about a 29% reduction in traffic with the new proposed development, and about in the PM peak, about an 8.8% reduction. With the new numbers, it actually improves the proposed development. There's about a 53% reduction in the AM peak hour, and there's a 32% reduction in the PM peak. Now, I will note there is an overall increase in daily trips, which means over a 24-hour period, there will be more trips on the vehicle network. And that's about a 14% increase over what an office use, what WestRock's office use was. And like I said, all of that traffic information will be made available. We will submit it to the city. And we also have representatives from Kinley who are here tonight that can answer any specific traffic study related questions, which I'm sure you'll have. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ken and Ben to talk about the site plan. No?
Okay. So this is a reminder of the original site plan that we started with here about a month ago. And it is, it's representative of 60 townhomes, about 50,000 square feet of commercial, which was located here. Adaptive reuse, which is this building, and this building, which are currently on site now. And this building we call building A, and this is building C, is converted to lofts. And then parking deck here, new construction rentals in these buildings, which were 200 and, the total of all this was 325 units. And then more townhomes over here. Public park here in the center. This is, I don't think it's labeled, but this is Thrasher, just to orient you, and Hunter and West Peachtree here. So we've taken this, which were some significant concerns, particularly on this side of the plan, and I'm going to let them go step by step on the revisions of the site plan from where we started here.
Good evening. My name is Ben Hudgens with Brock Hudgens Architects. I'll walk you through some of the changes that were made based on the feedback from the first meeting. Starting with the on-street parking on Hunter and Thrasher. One of the comments we got was, hey, we're concerned about the ability to park on Hunter. There's on-street parking existing on the other side of the street. Is there any way you can incorporate on-street parking on the new development side? So we were able to squeeze the site plan in towards the center so that we could create an on-street parking lane on Hunter. On Thrasher, we're going to provide as much on-street parking along the Thrasher frontage as we can work. Based on the sidewalk location and the topography of that, we'll get as much as we can along here. Again, the goal there is to provide on-street for visitors of the townhomes and a little bit of overflow parking, as was noted by some of the adjacent neighbors. The other big change was the adaptive use building that's circled here. In the original scheme, the plan was to keep the existing building that was approximately here, reuse that building for commercial use. What we've done is relocated the commercial use that was proposed here into this building. Still has great visibility, great access to the park, so we think it's a great location for commercial space. But what that does is allow us to push the multifamily, the new construction, more central to the site. We'll get into that a little bit more in just a minute. One other thing that's important to note about this adaptive use building, the plan is to use the first floor for commercial. The basement level of this building, which is accessed off of West Peachtree and the rear of the building, actually has that basement level that we're proposing to convert for some covered parking. So again, we're trying to take as much advantage of those existing buildings as we can, commercial space with parking below. One important note here is the adjustment in the density. Originally proposed 385 units total. We've reduced the number of units, which primarily happens here in the number of rental flats. Again, one of the comments we heard was concerned about density. So as we readjusted the site plan, reduction in the new multifamily construction, and an increase in the overall number of townhomes from 60 to 65. The proposed commercial and park space stays the same. So one of the big concerns from the neighbors at 7 Norcross was the relationship of this building, new construction building, to their existing homes. So what we've done is basically, as you can see, these orange boxes, we've shifted this program internal to the site to allow us to provide a townhome buffer along the entire eastern edge of the property adjacent to 7 Norcross. The thought here is to provide a building type that is in scale, in keeping with the scale and massing of 7 Norcross. I'm trying to be compatible and sensitive to those existing neighbors. And then with reorganization of the site and the parking garage, we've reoriented the building that fronts West Beach Street, internalized the parking garage and lined it with a 3-story building so that this building is in keeping with the same scale of these townhomes and with 7 Norcross. Parking garage is now lined. One of the concerns originally was the exposed side of this garage and the impact, the visual impact it might have to the neighbors to the east. So again, we've lined it with a townhome scale building in order to provide that continuous buffer along the eastern edge. The setback originally proposed, the building was a lot closer to the property line with the 7 Norcross neighbors. What we're proposing here is, with the introduction of the townhome program along this edge and the drive aisle there, 35 feet from the property line to the townhomes, again keeping with the scale of the existing townhomes. And you can see now that the new multifamily building is well over 100 feet away from the property line. Again, just to try to reduce the visual impact that building would have on the neighbors. So I think this section probably tells this best. Originally, new multifamily building closer to the property line. Part of the reason for that was trying to keep one of the existing buildings that was central to the site. What we've done in the revised scheme is take this program and pushed it more to the interior of the site, again keeping it further from the property line, and then providing townhome program that's more appropriately scaled with the adjacent townhomes. Again, that 110 feet from the property line, you can see there. The other big change that was made was the building character, the architecture of the building. Originally proposed was more slope roof, gable roof language, which starts to push the bridge of that building higher than if it were a parapet building with flat roof. So we went back, studied a little more the WestRock buildings, which have parapets and flat roofs, and have adjusted the buildings to have flat roofs to be more in keeping with the existing 3-story WestRock buildings. So again, the townhome program envisioned to be the same height as the adjacent 7 Norcross townhomes. The new multifamily with the flat roof envisioned to be the same height as the existing WestRock buildings. This quick diagram shows basically the massing of the existing WestRock buildings, the proposed townhomes, which again are keeping in the same massing and scale. And then, as you can see just barely in this picture here, that represents the existing 3-story WestRock building, which our building is basically the same height as that existing building to have the same impact. Okay.
So a couple of the questions we got, and one of the big initiatives of Norcross is the sustainability in the area. And so we wanted to highlight a few of the things that this community does have. And one being, first and foremost, the adaptive reuse of the buildings. This is just inherently a very, very sustainable thing to do, to reuse buildings that are there versus demolishing them and rebuilding new. And so that is one initiative that this community certainly has and is in keeping with the city of Norcross. We also have the new construction will be a green certified product. We do that on all of our new construction. And then we also do things such as community bike sharing programs and car charging stations and recycling and things of that nature. So just wanted to highlight that. Another concern was the lack of ownership in the rental product. And so what I want to highlight is similar to if many of you live in, if you live in 7 or other townhome communities, you have a homeowners association. Here, there will be a 2-layer association where you have the property owner, and then the townhome community will have their own homeowners. And under the Property Owners Association, the entire mixed-use development community will be managed through this Property Owners Association, where dues are paid, and from both the loft flats and commercial portions of the community, which Alliance will manage and run all of that. And we have a national platform. We are institutionally capitalized, and so we have basically huge bank accounts behind us that keep up all the properties. And we have very intense screening processes on all of our potential renters, as well as a lot of security measures throughout the property, courtesy officers, access control, gated parking, things of that nature. So it's all of this then gets managed up through the mixed use community. And then, so I wanted to highlight a little bit about what each individual component of the mixed use community is. The commercial space that is in that adaptive reuse product is conceptualized to be most likely a combination of sort of community workspace. We feel like this is a hole in the commercial market in Norcross. And so it's that WeWorks concept where you have a place to come if you are an entrepreneur, or maybe you run a business out of your home and you don't necessarily want to be home every single day. And we hope to expand the uses as the community grows. People make places, and so as the mixed-use community develops, we hope that we can get more uses in there that will complement the area. The next use is the townhomes, which are 65 units of the community. And we had gone through this a little bit. There was questions on this previously on what the average size and starting point were. So I just wanted to highlight that. It's in keeping here with kind of new construction in the area. The third component is the adaptive reuse lofts. And so this is, for us, this is really 3 different projects. The adaptive reuse is, I want to explain it, it's reusing these buildings. So it's going to feel very, very different from the new construction. You have things like exposed ductwork, concrete floors. You have kind of interesting odd window placements and such as you're creating unique floor plans based on what the building is. And there's 92 of these units. The next is the rental flats, and there's 200 of these proposed. And these are your more traditional new construction, modern finishes, wood flooring, quartz countertops, nice backsplashes, counter-depth appliances, that sort of thing. And then the public park is sort of the fifth element in the community. And that will be, probably this is a good picture of what we anticipate being. We hope that the commercial space sort of spills out into that park, and this will be another use that is managed by that property owners association, and our anticipation is to program it as much as we can and do things like, I don't know, food truck Fridays or yoga in the park and that sort of thing. The community can really come and gather and enjoy. Another question that we had is how the construction timeline works. And I think one of the questions was where is construction if the sidewalks were going to be closed down and things of that sort. It won't be. All the construction fencing will be inside of the current sidewalks around the property, and all the staging will be self-contained on the property. And then what I've tried to show here is that these are sort of the three components of the residential uses coming. And the first things that will come are the lofts, the commercial space, and the park. And we anticipate that to be kind of a little bit over a year after when we would start construction. And then the new construction flats would be kind of third quarter of 2019. And the townhomes would come around the same time as the lofts. Okay, and then some benefits to the community. So, of course, if the zoning does not happen, this is your way of kind of having a voice in what could happen on this site. Because if it's not, this is our proposal to complement what's around Norcross. It also kind of, I think I said earlier, people make places, adding people, even though we're not going to come close to what Norcross was with 630 people assigned to the site. We're probably going to be maybe a little bit less, probably like 530 or so. But we're adding people to the community that are going to enjoy the downtown more during the night and on the weekends. Which should help bring a little bit more activity to the area. And then we'll also improve kind of some of the connectivity, which is another goal of the city of Norcross with bikes and sidewalks and connecting to the downtown. And then the last bit is the tax benefits to the city and the area. The current uses, it's about $200,000 in taxes that they pay, and so this is a pretty significant increase into the valuation of the property and the benefits that you as citizens of the city of Norcross get back. And then, Mayor Newton went through this, but these are the dates and the anticipated timeline of next steps and procedures. And then we did forget to say one thing on the traffic that I'll go ahead and mention, is that we know we can't solve all the traffic in Norcross, and we were sort of directed to help look at the Jimmy Carter and West Peachtree intersection. And because of the nature of that being a Georgia DOT road, it's really hard for us to just say, hey, we're putting a light in here. But what we can do is help work with the city to figure out how to fund it. And so that's what we're talking through with them right now, and what that would be and what it would look like. And so that's part of our proposal too in the zoning. Corbin, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Okay, time for the question and answer portion of the evening. Does someone in the back have, yes, there's microphones in the back that will come around. If you could just raise your hand when you have a question, and one of the planning staff will bring you the microphone.
is just very general, but it looked like the original plan had a pool amenity, and I didn't notice that carried over into the new design. Has that
It will, it is,
readapted?
it's
Out.
in here, it's in this section as where
Okay.
it would be.
So is there anything else in there for the folks in the apartment, any other amenities, a workout room?
There will be, there's typical Class A amenities, like fitness facilities, club rooms, pool, recreation areas.
Okay, which we covered, of course, in their dues, and their
Correct.
property owners and homeowners dues.
I just had a question. When you were doing all of your research and looking at Norcross and planning all that you wanted to bring in, how much time did you spend eating in our restaurants and shopping in our stores and, I guess, talking to Joe Citizen on the street?
I've been working on this for about 8 months now, and I have been, I think, into just about every single one of the restaurants and retailers and been around. So it seems like it probably just came in front of you guys, but this is not, we didn't just come up with this 2 months ago and pop it down. It's been a work in progress for many, many months at this point.
A quick question for you. On one of your last slides, you estimated the value increase for tax revenue. Somebody asked on the first meeting the proposed estimated value of home value decreasing. Have you been able to evaluate how much of that would offset? Because if you're proposing a 1.1 injection in taxes for the project, but many of our home values decline, that really wouldn't be the full 1.1 million estimate, correct?
From a home value perspective, that's obviously a very difficult thing to assess. We can't predict the future as far as whether your home value will go up or whether your home value will go down. What I can say is in connection with the current zoning of the property, it is not compatible with the townhomes and single-family development around you. So if, for example, a truck terminal was to go on the property, I would anticipate your property value would go down in that instance.
I'd like to ask the mayor if he can recall how much the property tax that WestRock was paying on this property.
About $200,000 a year.
200,000?
Yes, sir.
I had a question regarding the fencing between the 7 Norcross and the new facility, new development. Existing right now, there's chain link fence there. Would it be intended to have fencing? I see you've got in the sketch here the trees, et cetera, or shrubbery. Can you just describe what the view or what it would look like in that regard?
It's pretty flexible at this point. We can go either way if it wants to be more open, so you could come walk through and enjoy the commercial space in the parks easier. We can do that. If it wants to be screened the whole way, we don't, this is sort of just diagrammatic. It's not set in stone. But we would, depends if they want.
Just kind of reacting to this, it's really kind of embarrassing if y'all keep throwing this thing that they're going to put a chicken plant over there or a truck thing. That's never going to happen, we know it. The alternative would be for another company like WestRock to take that campus and probably build it out to a greater extent, which I think at one point WestRock even looked into the possibility of the city helping them to expand the office footprint in that area. So it would be a little bit nicer if you just said, try to get away from that. And this is it's a great plan. My only problem with it is it's kind of cookie cutter. It's kind of the same thing you're seeing put everywhere they can find 10 acres in Atlanta. And it doesn't seem to tie into Norcross. And that's, I'm wondering why there's not more of a city planning aspect to it versus just a land planning access. How many units can we jam into this versus how can we make this work with the long term, with the future of the city and how we think it's going to turn out. The last part of that that is curious to me is at one time I was on city council And my normal thing on rezoning is if you're not putting the product better than than what's already there, then I don't think you really need to get rezoning. You need to be moving the bar up, not down, and in relation to your townhouses you're talking about starting at 350,000. Well, 7 in their last expansion finished off at around 450,000. The Kelly Street is coming in at 389, 400, maybe pushing a little bit higher. Why would you not go higher and try to make this an even better thing? This would make everybody's property values go up. You're now going to be putting $350,000 townhouses across the street from $550,000 homes. We all know that if you can redesign that, maybe increase the size, maybe bring in a different design concept. We already have the rest of the amenities. The city is giving you the amenities of Norcross that have been built by people in this room over the last 30 years. Why can't you come our way a little bit and look at this more as a, how do we make this a addition to the city? How do you make it help the people who are living next door to it, who are going to have to go through the hassle of living through the construction and things like that? Thank you.
Okay, I can address the planning question. The other ones I'll not address, but I would say that this site plan couldn't be more contextual. The site plan is 100% based on the existing structures to remain and the transition to the adjacent for sale residences. So once you factor in the buffer, the existing building reuse, and the other buffer, then all you're left with is this. The reality is, at the end of the day, to make it work, we're talking structured parking and multifamily units, but in a very block-like structure with a street grid, with a city park, and again, those buffers. So I'm not sure it's fair to say that you can plot it down anywhere. It relates directly to its context and its place.
So we're happy to talk with you maybe after the meeting on the uses that could go here. We went through that, perhaps you weren't at the first meeting. We had some of the land workers up here and talked through the reason why we got to where we are today with us at Alliance. There isn't another user right now, at least, for this campus. And so having the exact same use there is very unlikely.
That's just not true. We marketed the space for 2 years. We had no corporate users interested in the space. We did look at building additional buildings on the site for WestRock to stay there, but simply would not work. We looked at that. It would cost us a whole lot more money to stay there, but the site simply didn't work. We couldn't get the density.
The fact that you wanted to leave Norcross. I'm just debating the fact that I want to be invested in Norcross to go in.
But if we're waiting for a corporate user, I don't think that's going to happen. We tried to do that, and we had nobody take us up on it.
For the sake of time, we're going to move on to the next question. If you'd like to continue the discussion, we can do that after.
That's a very valid point, so that I'd like to answer. Take many other people in the room as well.
Okay. Do you have a specific question you'd like to ask again?
Well, I think the big thing, like I said, I don't mind the thing doing it. I think it would be much better to pursue a corporate client. And there are plenty of corporations looking in this area to amass all the people in one place. That's exactly what WestRock is doing from the center. That's what the other cities are doing.
This is a
Give him a mic.
So, all I'm saying is I don't disagree with changing the use of it, okay? And this is not a bad plan. But what it is it's a plan that looks very much like what they're doing everywhere else in Atlanta, where they're building these stacked flats and things like that. In your case, you're not doing any of the other things. Those people are adding commercial, they're adding retail to that mix. Okay, now the reason you don't have to do that is because the amenities are already built in Norcross. And they've been built over many years. People put a lot of money into fixing up the parks, fixing up the downtown and this. So the final thing I'll say about this, I don't mind putting apartments there. I don't mind the density. I do think, especially on your townhouses, you should be building product that is more expensive than the stuff that's right beside it. Because if you don't, when you put $350,000 townhouses in there, they are going to decrease the property value of the $550,000 house across the street.
My name's Douglas Biggs. I'm with Colliers and have worked with WestRock for a multitude of years. This is a project that we've marketed for now over a year, and we had several investors look at it that would buy it on a speculative basis. They were, none of them had a tenant in tow, and there was no meaningful tenant that really had any sort of interest to backfill that quantity of jobs. So it was not from lack of effort. We did it over a year, and there really never materialized any other corporate type user of this size and magnitude. They never called, they never looked at it, so no.
Because that was the story that was told back then, the first time we tried to do this.
Microphone, please.
That Quick was the,
WestRock never tried to market it 5 years ago.
Never did, never did.
And Quick Read never looked at it.
That's not correct.
I have a question, and it's just asking clarification on the plan. I'm unclear that adaptive reuse is going to be for the building that's facing Chrysler, and are the amenities that I see that are surrounding that apartment, are those going to be open to common users as well?
Yes to the last question. She wanted to know what the adaptive reuse on Thrasher, facing Thrasher, the long skinnier building, what that was going to be. And then, so the answer to that question is it will be the lofts. So it's a 2-story, it's kind of a 2.5-story building. Correct, yes. And on the second building, we have the commercial space on the bottom floor. So it's about 20,000 feet on that one floor, and then the parking underneath for the commercial. This is on the bigger kind of rectangular building that's the adaptive reuse, with lofts above on the top 2 floors, and then the building on Thrasher will be just lofts. The second question was, will the amenities that are throughout the site be for all users? And the answer to that is also yes.
Hi, what I'd like to do is first reiterate what the gentleman before was saying about the size of the townhomes. I would think you want to scale them more to what's surrounding it. And although 2,500 square feet is a little smaller than the folks across the street, it's also smaller than what we have in 7 for the most part. So just think about maybe increasing your scale a little bit, maybe in some of the units, so we could make a transition. The other thing I wanted to clarify with your site plan is where the ingress and outgress places to, the surrounding streets, and where's the ingress and outgress to the parking.
Sure. So this is pretty much going to be the main entry drive right here. The parking is all internal here, so you have to either come off of West Peachtree and come in there, or come through here and come in. This we imagine to be mostly to the townhome access on this bottom curb cut here to cut through. This will be emergency exit only. This is a very, very steep hill here, but for a fire code, you have to be able to access these units. So that'll be emergency exit. And then I imagine here off of Hunter, this will mostly be these townhomes that access through there. Come through.
Thank you. Go ahead. I was going to say, I do applaud the fact that you guys took a lot of what we said at the last meeting and incorporated it in, so kudos for that. It shows a willingness to work with the community. One of the concerns that I had raised at that meeting some weeks ago was the value of the townhomes, and I still see a concern here on that. So that is a concern, given that for some of the folks that have, $450,000 townhomes, and you've got people now that are going to be building $350,000 townhomes, 2,500 square feet versus 3,500 square feet. And that's a concern on the property values that we have at 7 Norcross. Just curious around the Norfolk Southern Railroad access into the property. Is there any consideration about what changes might be made there, or no changes at all? And I'm thinking specifically about the number of trains that come through and love to honk their horns at 24/7, 365. Will there be a change there where the guard posts are required to eliminate noise in the area?
We haven't gotten that far with Norfolk Southern, but we're investigating that.
So it is under consideration.
It's under consideration. It would probably benefit everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear on your timeline for completion. The townhouses, is that completion of all the townhouses or just the first?
Just the first.
That's going to be about 5 or 6 at a time?
It will, it'll probably be closer to 10 at a time.
And that's
The anticipated,
first.
correct, the anticipated timeline is about, on average, is 3 to 4 townhomes are sold a month.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, is because 7 has still got a whole big chunk that hasn't been developed, it's ready to go. You got the one down the block that's getting ready. Is there a market for that many townhouses this quickly? Because 7 has been sitting uncompleted for a long time. And the second thing is, you talk a little bit about the pricing for the rents on the flats and what kind of people we can expect to be there in terms of affluence, education, what our neighborhoods are like.
So the first question on the build out, it'll probably be 2 years for what we anticipate for this community. I don't know the timeline. 7's has been talked about for many, many years, and I don't know that developer, so I don't know if they're putting a shovel in the ground. Right, so I just can't opine on that because I don't.
No, I'm not asking you that.
Yeah. I do think there's enough demand in the area.
Want to come out of the ground, and where it's actually from.
There is demand in the area. There is demand. Basically, anything that's getting built is getting bought. So you're not seeing a lot of products sit on the market here for months at a time. So that's your supply demand right there. Not so the second question. Oh, the customer on the phone. So the average, and this is similar to the concern on the townhomes, it's average, that's the average. The intention is to have multiple different sizes and types of townhomes within the community. Same thing with the flats, there's a range of sizes and price points, but the average is about $1,600 a month in rent, which means to qualify, to go through the credit check, background checks, all that, you need to be making about $60,000 a year to qualify to rent. So the demographic is probably somebody that's making that is going to be more affluent, not somebody that's, first coming out of college most likely. It's someone in their upper 20s to probably early 40s, and then it's also people that are downsizing. So we do have a very wide mix of different product types within the 2 different communities, the adaptive reuse and the flats. So there'll be, everything from studio units that are 550 square feet up to about 1,800 square foot units.
My question is more an issue of, I was perplexed by a response that you gave last week.
Okay.
The question was, and it wasn't revisited, the question was, is what impact does this have on the school district? And your response was none. And I can tell you, sure we check the records. You gave this little formula and it said none. There is no impact. And you can't go from a lot that has the acreage it has and 0 children to presumably
No children working here. Something acting like children.
Kyle ain't there, right? But
Microphone, please.
the question is, and I don't know that it's your responsibility as much as it is the people who are making the judgment, but there's an awful lot of building going on in the Gwinnett schools to address overcrowding. Is this not adding to it, or are not other ones?
It would be, hold on, I actually.
And let me also say, it was exacerbated by receiving my assessment for next year. And it had 60% of it is the school taxes. So you're saying you had no impact. And the second is that those taxes, 60% of it, there was a large amount going to bonding, which means they're going to continue to have investments. So I really wonder how I'd like you to restate that there's no impact, but that there's some impact. And then every other building site should have some evaluation as to the impact. Because that's really our taxes. That's not our living, that's our taxes.
So I did not recall saying none. The capacity of the schools, the elementary school is, the capacity, it's over capacity. It's 1025 at capacity, and currently enrolled is 1058. Middle school is slightly over capacity, is 1675, and 1714 is the currently enrolled. High school is, Norcross High School is very much over capacity, but they're adding the new STEM school. So the anticipation is that that's going to come back in line. So typically what we have seen at our Class A properties is that the number of school children in the project is less than 20% of the population. And that's a range from not in school through high school. So there will be a small impact on these schools, certainly from adding residential, yes, but it's typically less than 20% of the population has any kind of children. They are current, yes.
Underway to address that.
Which schools?
What elementary?
Baldwin, Summernow, Norcross, and I'm probably saying wrong. Norcross, and then Paul Duke will be the new STEM.
Is the elementary school Strictly or Norcross Elementary?
Baldwin
is not in that district.
At Baldwin.
So
Across the street is Strictly.
Norcross Elementary or Strictly?
I have Baldwin Elementary.
Oh, right, okay.
In your original presentation, you used the terminology flats for the original WestRock buildings. You've now calling them lofts. Is that a marketing ploy, or are you actually going to sell them?
The loss of rental
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
I think we called all of them flats, and we went into
Yes.
different. It's
I
really
just wanted
two
to-
very distinct. It's almost like a phase 1, phase 2 for us. The lofts are a very distinct product versus the new construction.
Is there a reason why you are not going to sell any of those? Because there are a lot of people who, let's say, are downsizing, maybe getting older. I'm not included in that.
It's a
there is
financing
a real demand for maybe something around the 200,000 mark for people who are downsizing and want some sort of a quality product. And lofts would be a nice sort of thing to have. Are you considering
It's
that?
a financing metric, so it's very similar to, I feel confident you guys have heard of Ponce City Market in Atlanta. So that was also originally contemplated as condominiums, and it is, I actually reached out to a couple lenders. It's basically impossible to get a construction loan on condominium. And specifically in the suburbs too, they were unable to get their deal financed as a condominium product. And so what usually happens is you will finance it so that you can actually construct the product, and then at the time that the market allows, you can convert it to condominium. So that would most likely be more of an exit strategy down the line versus financing it like that to develop it.
You have Goldman Sachs, I think is one of your investors, which you were boasting about. Wouldn't they squeeze a little money there? No? Okay. But I just add one other thing is that on the city taxes, we actually, it costs us $1.50 for every dollar, or is it $1.25 to service residential? So thank you for increasing that. That's okay. Nobody gets it, but it costs you more money to service residential. Oh, up to a certain point. What's that point? Oh, okay. I withdraw the question. It's a very valid point.
Is there that much of a savings, and it's time to utilize the buildings that are there? I mean, by the time you try to do the interiors, why don't you just tear them down instead of trying to make something around these existing buildings and start over? It seems like you're trying to cram in a few of the buildings there. Is it going to save you that much money by not tearing them down and just start over?
It actually costs us a lot more money to save the buildings. So we could do that.
You mentioned having a public park on the property. So I don't know if this question's for you or from someone from the city, but then who monitors what goes on in the park? Because I live across the street from the park right now, and Norcross Police is there. So who would be overseeing that?
The Property Owners Association.
So it is a public park though?
Yeah.
So it would be
So it's
considered
open to the community. Anybody can come into it and enjoy the views. It's not going to be fenced off. There's no gates. If you want to walk your dog there and enjoy it, it's open to everyone, but we will monitor it within the master community.
And I missed it before, you said there was security, so is it staff, cameras, staff?
It's a combination of multiple different security measures. So we have cameras throughout properties, we have access control measures, so because the park is an open use, we wouldn't let somebody, say for the commercial uses, that would be locked in on. If you live in the loft, you have to have a fob to get in and access control to be able to enter those buildings. So we use those types of security measures, and then we also have courtesy officers that usually live at the properties that are there throughout, day and night.
I got a question over here. So if you were granted this special zoning designation, and let's say by 2020, 21, the economic outlook changes, what leeway do you have to modify this plan or the price points or the density?
The price points will not be included in the zoning approval. However, the site plan, as far as the uses, the density, any minimum square feet, those types of things would be included in the zoning approval, and we would have to come back through the public process to be able to change those.
You mentioned the financing in the previous question. The zoning is the primary thing you're coming to the city for, is the rezoning. Is there any other incentives that have to be done, either tax abatements or anything like that to get this project approved?
Right now, this is all proposed as a market rate deal, so we do not have any tax incentives or other help from the city at this point.
And if I may break the rule by clarifying something, this will still have to go through the architectural review board so that the visual from the street will still have some approvals before we can agree on all of that.
Correct.
So keeping in tune with the city already, we still have that opportunity to make sure that it fits architecturally, visually with the rest of the city.
So you mentioned right now there's demand for townhomes and it's up pretty quickly, but with the apartments right next to the townhome, that would obviously appeal to a different market. And has there been any thought put as the demand being different for people who want to buy a house right next to an apartment?
So part of what you're getting in this townhome is part of this master community. So you're not, you know what's here and what's coming if you're buying one of these townhomes. It's not a surprise.
Right, so I'm saying it would appeal to a different market of people. It wouldn't be the people who want to buy townhomes next to homes and other townhomes. It would be a smaller market of people who want to buy a home and invest their money to live right next to apartments.
You know, there's a lot of other communities throughout the Atlanta MSA where you have many examples of this.
But are they, like Norcross, I would consider that it's not as urban as Atlanta, even though it is close. So obviously, the people who want to live in that kind of area would live in Atlanta.
But you don't have anything like this in Norcross, so you don't know yet, do we? I mean, part of the reason why this area is, we love this site is the walkability of it, which is a very urban concept.
One thing I wanted to ask is the mall from the east, from 7, if you continue that feel into your development. When, on the rendering you showed, it looked like the mall was looking at a building. No, not that one.
That one?
No. From the east, I guess.
From 7.
Right. Back one, right there. So, you know, that mall's looking at a building, and I was wondering if you'd rearrange things to kind of continue that mall, maybe continue the street there by rearranging some things. Gives it a little more openness.
This is I think this is where the end of that one is.
Yeah,
They're kind of dead end right here.
Where does the mall come in from the way?
Right here.
I would say that we do have the ability to shift and move where a break in the building might occur relative to that. You're referring to the green space that happens between the town and frost. So yeah, we could certainly look at where the buildings break to try to free that up a little bit more. No objection with that.
So can you go back to that, the elevations that show, it's about back 3 screens, that show one more, the other direction, there you go. So I'm trying to understand what is the lower elevation on the far right? Is that, where is 7? Where's the 7 buildings?
7 is right here.
Okay, so you're not showing them though as a peaked roof, because they are peaked roofs in that section.
Yeah, so you're actually cutting through the center. That represents the ridge.
The ridge line?
Of the town. Yeah, so,
Okay.
which you can't see here, but that, you're basically cutting through the townhome. So that represents the ridge. That's the attic space, and that's the ridge of.
So you're actually
the
coming
roof
down
area.
a little bit then?
Well, so, yeah, what's interesting is the existing topography actually drops down from 7 to where the surface parking currently is. So the intent would be to maintain that grade elevation down there, which is 2.5 to 3 feet lower than 7 for the most part. So, yeah, the height of the townhome would be the same, but your observation is correct. It's actually down a couple
It's a
feet
little bit
from.
lower. So then the next building over is an existing building in 7 that you're going to redevelop, correct? I mean, in WestRock.
This is
Go to the right, nope, to the right.
This is
next
new
to the
construction.
little townhome.
This is new construction.
So they're going to be a lot higher then than that transition.
These buildings match the height of the existing building that is being demolished.
That's what I'm trying to understand, sorry. I'm trying to look at the revised and understand how it relates to the building. You've got the 7 to the right, and then you've got your first row of townhomes, and you have your next row with the 3 buildings
Yeah.
and their roof line.
So those 3 fingers represent those pieces of that E-shaped building. So that's what you're seeing is 1, 2, 3 is 1, 2, 3.
Perhaps if you could show that rendering again from.
So yeah, you can see that. You can see that beyond.
That's the building.
Which is basically matching the height of the existing building. And this is the
anticipating that being your front roof
yes.
building?
Yes, ma'am.
So I heard you mention retail and restaurants coming to the space. It's me again. A couple questions. So you mentioned retail and restaurants. Who finds those restaurants and retailers? And I'm happy about it. I think we're going to need some more restaurants and retail if we have 300 more apartments and units and all that. But could Taco Bell end up there? Or whatever pizza place that just opened up over here?
That is a definite no. We would hire a broker to do all the work, to reach out to the restaurants and retailers and bring us tenants. But we have complete control over who the potential retailers and restaurants would be. So we would not ever put anything like that at the building.
So you have control, but the city doesn't have control then? Right, like the city can't say.
Correct. Just like downtown, the city can't say what tenants go where. Yeah. They could.
I thought they could.
Well, they can say like no fast foods, no, certain uses in the commercial spaces, but you can't say, you can or cannot have a 4 o'clock fry restaurant here. Right? Like they wouldn't be able to say, if this is a restaurant space, that tenant's not allowed. Does that make sense? So the use can be dictated, but not the type of tenant.
So is that still considered downtown Norcross then? Like, aren't there a certain
We're
amount
in
of
the
restaurants
downtown.
and alcohol?
Technically in the downtown.
Technically, it's in the downtown development district,
It is in the downtown.
which is part of the LCI study area that was done 7 years ago.
So he said it's technically in the downtown development district.
Can you give a little more color on the commercial space? I mean, how many spaces are there? Potentially, how many shops could be in there?
It's a little early to talk about that. It's basically our anticipation right now is the entire first floor of the adaptive reuse building, which is gonna be about 20,000 of usable space in there. And then it sort of depends on what kind of interest we get as to what uses are gonna ultimately be in there and how big they would be. We anticipate having the WeWorks type of community space, which will probably be a big portion of it. We also think that there's probably a fitness concept that works well in the space.
WeWorks does not excite me, by the way. I live on Kelly. I was really hoping to get a pool, some of the profile we have in the downtown Norcross, like restaurants or art gallery or shops.
And they're very well maybe. We don't know until we take it out to the market and start getting prospects.
Okay. The last question I had is the E-shaped apartment building there, how does that compare in height to the adaptive reuse that's in front of it on Thrasher?
Yeah, so the building on Thrasher that is located here is a 2-story building with basement condition here. It's the height of this building above grade is approximately 1 story lower than this building. So the existing, let's see if we have the original plan. So this building and this building are 3-story buildings. This one's got a basement. This one is a 2-story building with a basement. So what we're doing is we're removing this, but redeveloping to the same height as this building. Yeah.
And I like the changes you guys have made, by the way. So thank you for listening to us last time.
Okay, I want to thank you also for listening to our comments and making the changes for that. That reuse portion is similar to what is at Atlanta Tech Park and Prototype Prime, which has a lot of vacancy already. So I don't really, you may want to rethink that because there's several areas that have what you're asking about. The other thing is you're talking a lot about the wonderfulness of this process, of this project and the design and things like that, but yet you're underselling the townhomes at the 350 average. I think you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the existing residents around who have been there for a long time, and I would recommend making it a premium place, making it with premium materials and increasing that cost and increasing, keeping the square footage, but using, high-end appliances and flooring and things like that so that the price point would be a little bit higher to keep in touch with the Kelly Street and the Hunter Street and the 7 Norcrosses, which are a lot higher. But all in all, that's my concern, that's my recommendation, and I'd like to hear what you say. I mean, you're saying 350 average now. 2 years from now, that could change very much too.
I just want to say also thank you. I've talked to Kim and several other people from, I don't know, across 7 are here, as well as Kelly Street, probably the majority here, because it is a big impact on us, and we really appreciate the response. One of the things that I think historically everybody needs to look at is that if WestRock wasn't there, this would be a residential area. And the chances of getting another WestRock to move in there are probably slim, very slim. So it takes me back to the question that was brought up about zoning. We've got to understand that the DCD concept is a very, very good zoning concept. It's a controlling concept. And if the city allows them to do that zoning to put this product in there, there are a lot of controls that we do not have with an M1 site. And I'm not trying to throw scare tactics or anything, or the list that was thrown up there as an M1 what could go in there. The chicken rendering plant, heat processor, I don't expect that. But you have no control. And I think that's the point that has to be made strong. I think it's a very good product, and thank you.
I just want to clarify, you're not proposing that the city will have to do anything with sewer or water for this? And can you talk a little bit about the parking deck and what its optics will be, how tall it is, how many cars, what's the intention there, and what's the optics of that again to the neighborhood?
So the water and sewer, no, it's all private development. We put in all the new utility systems.
And even on the tie-in side too, in terms of effluent and intake, the city will not have to upgrade the systems.
Correct. That all goes through our land development permit process, so that'll all be taken care of, and we are responsible for all that as part of the redevelopment. The parking deck is, I'll let Ben help me here, but it's a 3.5 story, depending on how the topography lays out. It will be screened on the West Peachtree side. So from a height perspective, you're never going to see it around the building, except for on West Peachtree, which we'll do a screening of.
How many cars? One. Yeah, I think it's just under 350. One quick note on the parking garage, and one of the comments made about the site plan being could plop down or not thoughtful or sensitive. The parking garage when we adjusted the site plan, the parking garage is located in the optimal place on the site because it's sort of tucked in a hole, right? The parking falls off to West P Street. We think we can work the garage into the site to minimize the visual impact all around. So, of course, we've got buildings that are screening those sides, but again, we're trying to work it with the existing grade so that we can tuck it in there and minimize the impact. If we were to move the parking here, of course, it's in the highest part of the site, and it's no good for anybody.
So once, going back to what you're going to do in your units size, and some people were suggesting that maybe you go to some higher level, maybe larger units, more expensive. When 7 came in and went to phase 2, the new developer came in, they started with the 3-story, and they quickly realized that they needed master-owned mains because that's what the market dictated. So are you prepared in your pro forma if the market changes for, like, you need bigger units? Are you prepared to flip your plan or change your plan for maybe the next building is going to be larger units?
So what would happen in that instance is it doesn't actually change the site plan. What it does is reduces the unit count, right? Because you end up having wider units then. But that is something that, yes, as the market progresses and over time, if that is what needs to happen on the townhome side, we can adjust to that.
So you do have that opportunity, and this is a 2-year development.
It'll take 2, yes, it'll take a solid 2 years to kind of build out all the townhomes, so there's opportunity to change that.
I have a question. Just to go back to apartments versus townhomes. The apartments, the number of apartments, those are rentals. What is the number on them?
There's 92 lofts, so the adaptive reuse, which will be rentals, and then there's 200 new construction.
Okay, so the lofts are rentals.
Yes.
Good evening. I have a big concern about the traffic outside the WestRock property. Actually, I don't leave after 6:50 in the morning because the red light at the end of the street is too long. If I leave after 6:50, the road will be blocked. And I remember, if I understand correctly, one of your points was there were like 600 employees of WestRock, and now there will just be probably the same number of people, but residents. But it seems to me it's a big difference because in the morning, the 600 employees, they come from everywhere to this point. But with the residents, in the morning, they start from this point, leave for work to everywhere. I don't think the 2 roads, they're very narrow. I don't think the 2 roads can afford this traffic burden. So can you give us more details? How will you do with the traffic? Thanks.
So the traffic study that was performed, it has a couple different components. One of them is it gives all of the roads around the property grades, just like you get in school. There's an A through actually A through F. A being that the intersections operate optimally, they're doing great. B is a little bit worse, C is a little bit worse, and the way that they generate those grades is based on the amount of time you have to wait. So you perceive traffic as the amount of time you have to wait to get somewhere, the amount of time you're stopped waiting to go into the next intersection. So the streets around this property operate at a level of A or B currently. And they will continue to operate at a level of A or B, not changing from A to B, but A or B, the exact same, after development of this, and including the traffic from the 7 that's coming online, after including the Hunter Street. The level of service on the various intersections is not going to change. So from that perspective, from a more global perspective, there's not a traffic issue with respect to the operation of the intersections around this particular place. Now there are peak traffic issues, and that's why they have an AM peak and a PM peak. Usually you have a lot of traffic when people are leaving their houses and they're coming into work. So in this instance, with an office use, you have people coming to the site to go to their office use, and you had people leaving the homes being able to go to their place of business. With respect to this proposed development, what it does is it actually improves the AM and PM peak period. It actually reduces the amount of traffic that you're going to have in that AM and PM peak period. The reason being because there's not a huge driver for people coming in. Like for example, the residents, they might not go to work at 8 in the morning. They might work from home. They might go to work at 10. They might work with a night shift. It's a different level of service from a traffic perspective. That's also why you could see in the traffic study that overall, over a 24-hour period, the traffic increases with a residential use because you have residents that are traveling on a 24-hour period. You can't predict, what day, what time, because people are going to leave. A little traffic lesson. One thing, again, I think that Kim mentioned is we did understand that there is a concern with the Jimmy Carter and West Peachtree intersection. That's not part of this traffic scope. It is a problem today. But something that Alliance is willing to do is work with the city to contribute to funding some sort of intersection improvement there, a traffic signal or otherwise. We don't know that we can get it all the way there, but we are willing as a part of our zoning conditions to make a contribution for that. Back over the board.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. If you have any further questions or comments, you can contact this email right here. Thank you. I'm sorry.
For just a second, if I could have your attention. If I could have your attention for just a second, please, before you leave. I want to thank staff for taking out time to be here to make sure this meeting came off efficiently and effectively. Rudolph Smith, Mary Beth Bender, Tracy Rye, Robert Patrick, Chris Motor, Sonia Isaac, Tara Smith, Hannah Knabb, Andy Lazaro, Stephen Shepard, Nicole Newsom, all are here. And I also like to thank the city council members, Andrew Hickson, Josh Baer, Dan Watt, Chuck Paul. Thank you all for taking time out to be here and to have an effective meeting. As you all know, that being in local government or any government position is a thankless job, but we just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for what you did. Thank you. Good night, everyone.